Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at Bitcoin. It is time for another update and it seems the market has decided, the larger correction has begun. We have our wave 1 top in place. We are not looking for extensions within this wave to the upside anymore. Now technically other corner scenarios could be possible, but I wouldn't trust them. Especially based on the latest sell-off, I would be prepared for additional downside. Now we had the last level of support for continuation higher at around the 73.5k level. When we failed to hold that, it was a strong signal that this structure was not expected to form any additional highs, at least not within this internal wave to the upside. Now, we have hit just above 60k and we are looking to still extend to lower prices. We will of course discuss the potential structures we could be looking for, the levels of resistance that need to be broken to provide some evidence. But before that, I would like to go quickly through the larger time frame for any of you who might be new. And here we have been tracking a quite basic interpretation of the Bitcoin chart. We have a series of 1-2 setups where this uptrend from the 2018 low could be considered a larger 1-2 setup. Now, was it 2018? Was it 2019? Yeah, it was 2018. Yeah, December. Now, anyway, for support for continuation to higher prices, we are looking at the first level being at the $31k. We haven't gotten even close to this first level. And I want to be absolutely clear. Other interpretations that would allow internal extensions are possible. I could be looking for a series of 1-2 setups instead. But personally, without evidence, I wouldn't assume to find a bottom necessarily that soon. Of course, it is possible to look for an internal area of support for a 1-2 setup. I will briefly show it here on the chart and we will be talking about the levels between the 57.4k all the way down to the 24.6k level. Nonetheless, I mentioned this to you in the previous video. Without evidence, I'm not looking for a reversal to new all-time highs to begin from this area. And I'm not necessarily looking for the accumulation to start heavily from this area. From the large time frame perspective, we have additional structural support that I have provided you even in the previous video. We are talking here about the previous swing lows in this correction we had in the wave 4. And here we have the 56, 57k level, the 53k level, around that area, and then additionally around the 49k level. Especially this one has formed the substantial low before extending to new all-time highs in the fifth wave. Now, I will also be looking for a potential full count, and at this point it is a little bit in between. It seems still very undecided, but at least the internal wave tree I do believe is actually complete. So for context, actually I can remove this interpretation completely, we are not extending higher. For context, we have been tracking here an A, B, C structure to unfold to lower prices. The ideal target for the wave C is the 100% extension of the wave A. That is, in the case of this chart, around the 62k level. Yeah, I can actually maybe adjust this a little better, but around that area, 62.6k level. We have already reached the ideal target, but at the same time, the wave C is expected to build a 5-wave pattern to the downside. At this point, I would strongly believe that this wave C would be incomplete. I would still be looking for additional lows before assuming a more substantial bottom is already in place. And in the previous video, we were looking not necessarily for as strong of a wave 3, and the ideal target has already been reached, I believe, yeah, if we actually look for this wave 3, it has already been reached, the 138.2% extension of the wave 1. Yeah, we already had this bottom in place, and we were still looking for lower prices, as we were tracking internally within this wave 3 substantial extensions. We had the area of resistance up to the 79.5k, we had pushed into the last level of resistance, and we have extended lower. Now, the question is how this count actually subdivides. And there are actually a couple of options, so here we have been considering this to be a 1-2, third, fourth, and a fifth that would be expected to unfold. I would still believe right now that this is the wave 3, even though we have had a stronger extension in this latest decline yesterday especially. I see it more as a diagonal structure, and that is reinforced by the fact that if I wanted to track here a potential 1, 2, third, fourth, and the fifth. For this wave 4 correction, we did not manage to get held back by the levels of resistance. We would only be able to look up to the 50% retracement in an impulse. If this is expected to be a wave 3, this must be an impulse. In this case, I would be prepared and I would be looking for at least a slightly different count. So I will be tracking a separate interpretations for continuation to even lower prices. I will be considering that this is unfolding as a fifth wave still, the same fifth wave we tracked here in the previous video. And in this interpretation, I will track this as an ending diagonal in a 1, 2, third, fourth, and the fifth. In this interpretation, we would still expect another low before we would have a more substantial bottom within this fifth wave. Now, keep in mind, this would not be expected necessarily to complete the entire wave 3, but it would be expected to take us to lower prices before having a more substantial bottom. So we are watching in this case the levels of resistance for continuation to lower prices between the 63.8k all the way up to the 70k level at the 61.8% retracement. If we manage to break the 61.8% retracement, it would be a strong signal to me that a more substantial bottom would already be expected to be in place. Now, in terms of the orange interpretation, let's recap a bit. Let's go a bit through what we have been tracking in the previous video. We had this fifth wave that we were looking to complete. I could very well see this structure to have bottomed here, but we got extensions lower. What does this mean? Shouldn't we have completed the wave 3 at this point then? Well, no, because in the previous video I did highlight this beginning of the wave 3 where we had a double 1, 2, 1, 2 setup. This had only completed this wave 3. We would then expect a fourth anyway and a fifth and then another fourth and another fifth because we had a double 1, 2 setup here in the very beginning. Based on this count, based on this expectation, I could assume a more substantial bottom to be in place within this wave 3. I wouldn't need to look for any additional extensions lower and the count would in fact be full. And I know that this structure doesn't necessarily seem to have a full count, like we expect a 5-wave pattern in this fifth wave. Oftentimes within such strong sell-offs, they get built in. We don't necessarily get the last leg down, we actually lack that. And it seems to be the case here. But I wouldn't let this prevent us from tracking a potential full structure in this larger wave 3. In such a case, we would be looking for the larger wave 4 correction. Again, we have a potentially full count in this structure to the downside. I'm not assuming this. I'm still looking for potential extensions lower in the yellow interpretation. If we get an extension within this structure to lower prices, I will be tracking additional lows still, another 4-5 and another 4-5 before I actually have a full count. I will still consider this initial 1-2-1-2 setup, but as it stands right now, this wave 3 does not need additional extensions and I could be looking for the larger wave 4 correction. Ultimately, I would still expect this structure to extend to lower prices, very likely into the structural support that I provided to you earlier. And for a signal that a more substantial bottom is even already in place, I would be watching here the 50% retracement at, let's actually draw this right because we want to have the correct levels, but at around the 73.8k level. As long as we stay below the 73.8k level, I cannot consider a more substantial bottom to already be in place within this structure. And I believe this is pretty much all we need to keep in mind when we are watching our roadmap, when we are considering our expectations. We are waiting for evidence that a more substantial bottom has already formed in this wave 3. A break above the 70k level would provide that to us. We are looking for a signal that a more substantial bottom and that an extension to even lower prices in an impulse in this area would not be expected with a break above the 73.8k level. For now, this is about it from this time frame perspective. We could be taking a quick look here in the smaller time frame, and I wouldn't assume too much of the structure currently. We do seem to have a 3-wave pattern to the upside. It doesn't look good, to be honest, and we may already have begun our extension to lower prices in this wave 5 in yellow. But for now, we could be looking here only for a potential 1-2 setup I believe we still need to be patient, the structure remains very much unclear, and we would really require extensions to higher levels, and this fourth wave really does not need any additional highs to be considered complete. If we had topped in this initial push to the upside, I might have been looking for a 1-2 setup potentially, or at least an A, B, C to extend to higher prices, but as it stands right now, we don't need any extensions higher, and I wish you to be careful out there, as this downtrend doesn't seem to necessarily be complete yet. However, if we expect a large wave 4 correction in orange, we could be looking at something more along the lines in proportions for what we had within this wave 2, which lasted only for a few days really. So already by Monday or early next week, we could be looking for the fifth wave in orange to already start, even if we don't get the extension in the yellow interpretation. So once again, in the yellow structure, we would expect even further downside beyond the fifth wave that we are tracking. And for now, these are the levels, this is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.